Ambassador Marcus straightened his formal jacket as the shuttle docked with Harmony Hub, the massive space station that served as neutral ground for galactic diplomacy. This was humanity's first official diplomatic feast since joining the Galactic Federation 3 months ago, and Marcus wanted everything to go perfectly. The R'Lani had been gracious hosts so far. Insect-like features clicking with what Marcus had learned was polite excitement. Ambassador Krill, the lead R'Lani diplomat, had explained that they would be serving traditional delicacies from their homeworld. As a gesture of friendship and cultural exchange, your species will find this most enlightening, Krill had said through his translator device, his compound eyes gleaming. We have prepared creatures that represent the greatest challenges our people have ever faced. Marcus smiled and nodded, assuming they meant something like how humans might serve turkey on special occasions or perhaps caviar for fancy events. He was looking forward to trying alien cuisine for the first time. The dining hall was enormous, with representatives from dozens of species seated around a circular table that could have fit a small spacecraft. Marcus recognized a few species from his briefings. The tall, graceful Etherians with their blue skin, the rock-like granite lords who barely moved, and several others whose names he was still learning. Honored guests, Krill announced, standing at the head of the table. Tonight we share with you the most significant meal in R'Lani history. These creatures have shaped our culture, our legends, and our deepest fears for thousands of years. The first course arrived on hover platforms, carried by nervous-looking R'Lani servants. Marcus watched as a creature about the size of a large turkey was placed before each guest. It had multiple legs, sharp claws, and even in death, its carapace gleamed with an oily sheen that seemed to move in the light. Behold the razor maw, Krill said solemnly. For centuries, a single one of these beasts could destroy entire R'Lani settlements. Their claws can cut through our strongest metals, and their speed is beyond measurement. The alien guests murmured with respect and fear. Several species pushed their plates away slightly, clearly intimidated even by the cooked remains. Marcus picked up his knife and fork, examining the creature with interest. "This looks like it has good meat on the legs," he said conversationally. "Do you have any sauce recommendations?" Table fell silent. Krill's antennae twitched rapidly, which Marcus's cultural briefing had mentioned was a sign of confusion. Ambassador Marcus, Krill said slowly, "Perhaps you do not understand. This creature is a razor maw. They are the apex predators of our world, right?" Marcus said, cutting into one of the legs. The meat was white and flaky, similar to crab. "Tastes pretty good, too. Reminds me of lobster back home. Could use some butter," though. A delegate from the Etherian Empire leaned forward. "Human, are you not concerned about consuming such a dangerous predator?" Marcus looked up from his meal, genuinely puzzled. "Why would I be concerned? It's cooked, isn't it?" He took another bite. Besides, dangerous just means it probably had an active lifestyle. That usually makes for better meat. The second course arrived, and this time several delegates gasped audibly. The creature was the size of a large pig, with 6 legs and a mouth full of teeth that were still visible despite being thoroughly roasted. Its hide was covered in spines that looked sharp enough to pierce armor. "The spine devil," Krill announced, his voice trembling slightly. "They hunt in packs and have been known to take down our military vehicles. The spines carry a toxin that causes madness before death." Marcus nodded appreciatively. "Nice presentation. Is this the whole animal or just a section?" He started carving without waiting for an answer. "The spines are just for show now, right?" "They look like they'd add nice texture. The toxin remains active even after death," whispered a delegate from the Crystal Dominion. "Well, cooking usually breaks down most toxins," Marcus replied cheerfully. "And even if it doesn't, humans have pretty robust immune systems. We eat all sorts of things that are technically poisonous." He tried a piece. "Oh, this is excellent. Very tender. The toxin might actually be adding some interesting flavor notes by." The third course. The alien delegates were staring openly at Marcus as he worked his way through what they considered nightmare fuel. The third creature was even larger, resembling a cross between a bear and a spider. With massive fangs and claws that had been cooked but still looked menacing, the shadow bear, Krill announced, sounding almost defeated. "They are invisible in darkness, and their bite can crush R'Lani's battle armor." "Invisible, huh?" Marcus said, cutting into the haunches with obvious expertise. "Probably means they were ambush predators." Those usually have really lean muscle from all the waiting around. Makes for great steaks. He held up a piece on his fork. See how the grain runs? You want to cut against that for maximum tenderness. The final course made even Marcus pause for a moment. Not out of fear, but out of appreciation for the presentation. The creature was enormous, requiring its own hover platform to bring it to the table. It looked like a cross between a dragon and a nightmare, with multiple heads, rows of teeth, and claws the size of swords, the Devourer Queen, Krill said in barely a whisper. Only 3 have ever been killed in our history. Each required the sacrifice of thousands of our warriors. This one was preserved from the last great hunt 50 years ago. The entire table was silent except for the sound of Marcus sharpening his carving knife on the provided steel. Now this is impressive, Marcus said, walking around the creature too. Examine it from different angles. Multiple muscle groups, good size, probably lived a long time to get this big. The meat's going to have incredible depth of flavor. He looked up at Krill. Hey, do you have any preferences for how it should be carved? I'm thinking we start with the tenderloins along the back, then work our way to the legs you wish to carve it yourself, Krill asked. Well, someone has to, Marcus replied. And I did spend a summer working at my uncle's butcher shop back on Earth, learned how to break down large animals properly. He made the first cut with practiced precision. The key is understanding the anatomy and working with the natural muscle separations. As Marcus carved the Devourer Queen with the same casual efficiency he might use on a holiday turkey, the alien delegates sat in stunned silence. What their species had fought wars against, what had given their children nightmares for generations, was being discussed in terms of proper cooking techniques and seasoning preferences, perhaps, said the Etherian delegate slowly. We should add humans to our list of species, never to anger Krill's antennae drooped. I fear we may have invited something far more terrifying than apex predators to our table. Captain Alina was enjoying her coffee when the emergency transmission came through the ship's communication system. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a panicked Corvin mining administrator, his gray skin flushed with fear and his forearms gesturing wildly. Please, any human vessel in range, we need immediate assistance, the Corvin pleaded. Shadow Stalkers have invaded mining station Omega-7. We have lost contact with 3 levels already. Our security forces cannot even see them to fight back. Alina set down her coffee cup and leaned forward. How many Shadow Stalkers are we talking? About here, unknown numbers, Captain. They hunt in perfect darkness and our sensors cannot detect them. We estimate at least 12, possibly more. We need a full military response with heavy weapons and tactical lighting systems, Alina nodded thoughtfully. We can be there in 6 hours. How many people are trapped? Nearly 200 miners and their families. Captain, you must understand, Shadow Stalkers are not ordinary predators. They have never been successfully killed in direct combat. Our invisible death incarnate, right? Alina said. We'll handle it. Just try to keep your people in lit areas until we arrive after ending the transmission. Alina turned to her crew. Tom was reading something on his tablet. Lisa was checking their supply inventory. And Dave was already pulling up star charts for the fastest route, so Shadow Stalkers, Alina announced. Anyone know what those taste like? Tom looked up from his tablet. I was just reading about them. Apparently they're pure muscle and sinew, adapted for perfect stealth hunting. Probably pretty lean meat, invisible in darkness, though, Lisa added. That's going to make hunting them interesting, Dave grinned. Good thing we brought those motion sensors from the camping trip last month. Alina nodded. Lisa, do we have the portable grills in storage? 2 of them, plus the smoker you insisted on bringing. Perfect. Tom, what do we know about their habitat preferences? Tom scrolled through his research. They prefer enclosed spaces with multiple levels, hunt by scent and vibration, and apparently their claws can cut through most metals. Oh, and they're about the size of large wolves, but much more aggressive. Sounds like they'd be good for steaks then, Alina mused. What about seasonings? Any idea what would work with that kind of meat well? If they're as active as the reports suggest, probably something that complements gamey flavors, Lisa said. Maybe some of that herb mix we picked up at the last trading post. The journey to mining station Omega-7 took exactly 6 hours, during which time the crew prepared their equipment. Instead of military-grade weapons, they packed hunting rifles, camping gear, motion detectors, and a considerable amount of cooking supplies when they docked with the mining station. The Corvin administrator met them at the airlock with a security. "Team Captain Alina, thank goodness you are here," he said, his relief obvious. "I am Administrator Gorick. We have prepared a staging area for your assault team." "How many soldiers did you bring?" Alina looked around at her 3 crew members. "This is it." Gorick's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "For humans against an unknown number." "Of shadow stalkers?" "Captain, perhaps you do not understand the severity of the situation. We understand fine," Alina said, shouldering her hunting rifle. "Where did you last see them? Level 15? But that was hours ago. They could be anywhere now." "Captain, these creatures are death itself. They have terrorized our species for millennia." Dave was setting up his motion sensors along the corridor. "They prefer any particular temperature range?" Gorick looked confused. "Why would that matter?" "Well, if we're going to track them efficiently, we need to know their environmental preferences," Tom explained, checking his rifle scope. "Are they warm-blooded or cold-blooded? I do not understand why you need to know." "This for combat," Lisa laughed. "We're not here for combat. We're here for dinner, the first shadow." Stalker appeared 30 minutes later as they moved through level 12. It was completely invisible until Dave's motion sensor started beeping. The creature materialized from what seemed like empty air. Sleek predator with razor-sharp claws and teeth, designed for killing in absolute darkness. "There's one," Alina said calmly, raising her rifle to shadow stalker. Confused by the lack of fear from its prey, hesitated for just a moment. That was enough. Elena's shot took it down cleanly. "Nice clean hit," Tom said, examining the creature. "Barely damaged the meat at all." Gorick stared in shock. "You killed a shadow stalker with a single shot?" "Well, yeah," Dave said, helping Tom lift the creature. "Good thing, too. We don't want to damage the meat with multiple shots over the next 3 hours." The crew systematically worked their way through the mining station. The shadow stalkers, adapted for hunting terrified prey that ran and hid, were completely unprepared for humans who tracked them methodically and showed no fear motion sensors, picking up 3 more on level 8. Dave announced, "Good, we're running low," Alina replied. "Lisa, how's the grill situation? First batch is almost ready. Meat's more tender than I expected." They found the 3 shadow stalkers in the station's central hub, apparently confused by the smell of their packmates being cooked. Alina and Tom took 2 down, while Dave got the 3rd with a clean headshot. "That's 12 so far," Tom said, dragging his catch toward the impromptu cooking area Lisa had set up. "I think that's all of them." Administrator Gorick and his security team had been following at a distance, watching in amazement as the humans treated the galaxy's most feared stealth predators like weekend hunting game. "The meat's actually quite good," Alina said, offering Gorick a piece from the grill. "Lean but flavorful. The stealth adaptations seem to have made the muscle fibers really fine." "You are eating them," Gorick said faintly. "Well, yeah, no point wasting good meat," Lisa replied. "Want to try some?" "We've got plenty, but they are shadow stalkers." "We're shadow stalkers," Dave corrected, flipping another steak on the grill. Now their lunch, Tom was already planning their next steps. "We should smoke some of this for the trip back. The flavor would probably improve with smoking." "Good idea," Alina agreed. "Gorick, is there somewhere we can set up the smoker for?" Few hours, the Corvin administrator just stared at the humans as they discussed cooking techniques while standing over the remains of creatures that had terrorized his species for generations. Around them, the mining station was completely secure, the shadow stalker threat eliminated not by military might or advanced technology, but by 4 humans who treated apex predators like grocery shopping. "I need to update our threat assessment files," Gorick muttered to his security chief. "What classification should we give humans?" The security chief, Askedrick, watched Alina demonstrate proper meat smoking techniques to her crew, while standing ankle-deep in shadow stalker remained something above apex predator, he said quietly. "Something much, much higher." Dr. Roy walked through the corridors of Theta Research Station with his inspection clipboard in hand, humming quietly to himself. The massive facility housed the galaxy's most dangerous xenobiological specimens behind quantum containment fields, and as the human representative on the safety board, Roy made these visits every few months to ensure everything was running proper. Station Director Veln, a tall, crystalline being from the Prism Collective, greeted him at the main laboratory entrance. Her geometric form sparkled nervously in the artificial light. Dr. Roy, welcome back to Theta Station. I must say your timing is rather unfortunate today. Roy looked up from his clipboard. Oh, what's going on? We are experiencing some minor technical difficulties with our containment systems. Nothing serious, but perhaps you should return next week when we have resolved the issues before Roy could respond. Emergency sirens began wailing throughout the station. Red lights flashed as automated voices announced in multiple languages. Containment breach in all sectors. Evacuation protocol initiated. All personnel report to emergency shuttles immediately through the transparent aluminum windows of the laboratory. Roy could see creatures that defied description moving through the corridors. Things with too many teeth, beings made of living shadow, creatures that seemed to exist in more dimensions than should be possible. Roy said calmly. Those minor technical difficulties. Director Veln's crystalline structure was flashing rapidly. With panic, Dr. Roy, we must evacuate immediately. Every containment field in the facility has failed simultaneously. These creatures have destroyed entire civilizations. Roy watched with interest as a creature that looked like a cross between an octopus and a nightmare flowed past the window. Huh, is that a void feeder? I've read about those but never seen one. In person, yes. That particular specimen consumed the entire population of the Kepler 442 system before we managed to capture it. Dr. Roy, please, we must leave now actually, Roy said. Pulling out his portable scanner, this is a great opportunity to observe their behavior in an uncontrolled environment. Do you mind if I take some readings? The director stared at him in disbelief as Roy calmly walked toward the laboratory door. Dr. Roy, you cannot be serious. These are Category X specimens, the most dangerous creatures in known space, right? Which makes them perfect for behavioral study, Roy replied, stepping into the corridor where a creature that looked like a living pile of razor wire was methodically destroying wall panels. Oh wow, look at those mandibles. I bet those would make excellent soup bones, the razor wire creature noticed. Roy turned toward him with obvious predatory intent. Roy held up his scanner, completely ignoring the creature's threatening posture. Fascinating. The electromagnetic readings suggest a high mineral content in the exoskeleton. That usually means the meat underneath is quite tender to compensate. For the hard exterior, the creature lunged at Roy, who sidestepped casually while taking notes. Aggressive, but not very agile. Probably an ambush predator in its natural habitat. Director Veln watched from the safety of the laboratory as Roy continued his observations. He is going to be killed instead. Roy pulled out his emergency kit and removed what appeared to be a standard camping knife. Let's see if we can get a tissue sample. The razor wire creature found itself being methodically dissected by a human, who showed no fear and kept making notes about optimal cooking methods. Its death throes were interrupted by Roy commenting on the interesting marbling in its muscle tissue. Dr. Roy. Director Veln called through the intercom. There are 17 more Category X specimens loose in the facility. 17. That's great, Roy replied, already moving toward his next subject. I've been wanting to compare the different flavor profiles of deep space predators. The next creature Roy encountered was something the research staff called a mind ripper. A being that fed on psychic energy and drove its victims insane with terror before consuming them. It attempted to project waves of paralyzing fear into Roy's mind. Huh, that's interesting, Roy said, completely unaffected. Psychic predator, but the fear projection isn't very refined. Probably means it usually hunts prey with weaker mental defenses. The mind ripper, confused by Roy's complete lack of fear, tried harder to terrorize him. Roy just walked closer, examining its tentacled form with scientific interest. The translucent skin suggests it might be quite delicate to cook. Probably best suited for quick searing rather than long braising. By the time Roy reached the creature, it had stopped trying to frighten him and was actually backing away in what appeared to be confusion. Don't worry, Roy said gently, pulling out his knife again. This won't take long. Over the next 2 hours, Roy worked his way through the facility, like a man doing grocery shopping. Each Category X specimen, no matter how terrifying or dangerous, became a subject for culinary evaluation rather than a threat to be feared, the dimensional horror that existed in 7 dimensions. Simultaneously was noted as probably very complex flavor due to interdimensional proteins the plague. Beast that carried diseases capable of wiping out star systems was described as likely very gamey. Might need extended marination. The entropy spider that aged everything it touched to dust was definitely aged meat. Should be incredibly tender. Director Velen watched through the security cameras as Roy set up what appeared to be a cooking demonstration in the station's main cafeteria. He had somehow managed to turn the most secure xenobiological facility in the galaxy into his personal kitchen station log. Velen spoke into her recorder. Dr. Roy has single-handedly neutralized all Category X specimens and is now providing what appears to be a cooking tutorial to the security cameras on the monitors. Roy was indeed explaining proper butchering techniques while preparing steaks from a creature that had once devoured an entire moon, the key with interdimensional meat. Roy said to the camera, is understanding that the proteins exist across multiple reality planes. You need to season in at least 3 dimensions to get proper flavor penetration. He held up a piece of what had once been the galaxy's most feared psychic predator. See how the meat has this iridescent quality? That's because it's partially existing in psychic space. The flavor is incredible, like nothing you can get from normal dimensional creatures. When the evacuation shuttles returned with emergency response teams, they found Roy hosting what could only be described as a cooking show in the ruins of the research facility. That's how you properly prepare Category X specimens for optimal flavor and nutrition, Roy concluded, addressing the security camera. Remember, the most dangerous predators often make the most interesting meals. You just need to understand their biology. Director Velen approached him cautiously. Dr. Roy, you have eliminated threats that we believed were impossible to kill. Roy looked up from his impromptu feast, genuinely puzzled. Kill. I just prepared them properly. The real challenge was figuring out which cooking methods worked best for each species. He offered her a plate. Want to try some? The dimensional horror is particularly good, though I think I may have underseasoned the entropy spider. The director stared at the plate of what had once been civilization-ending monsters, now neatly arranged as a gourmet meal. I need to update our files on human dietary preferences. She said faintly, Oh, and next time you have a containment breach, Roy added helpfully, give me a call. I've got some great recipes I'd like to try. The ancient beings known as Void Hunters had consumed civilizations across the galaxy for millions of years, leaving behind nothing but empty space where thriving worlds once existed. They were older than most stars, more powerful than entire fleets, and considered themselves the ultimate apex predators of the universe. When news reached them of a species that treated predators as food, they were initially amused. The concept of prey fighting back was not new to them, but the idea of prey actually eating other predators seemed like an interesting novelty. Elder Nethes, speaking for the Void Hunter Collective, decided they would investigate this curiosity personally. After all, they had not encountered anything worth hunting in several millennia, and these humans might provide some entertainment before becoming their next meal. Void Hunters emerged from deep space near Earth in ships that looked like massive black crystals, each one large enough to hold a small moon. Their psychic presence alone had driven entire species to madness in the past, and their arrival typically marked the end of all life in a star system. Admiral Kate was on duty at Earth Defense Command when the massive alien vessels appeared on their sensors. The ships were unlike anything in the galactic database, and their energy signatures were off the charts. Unknown vessels. This is Earth Defense Command, Kate transmitted. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came not through radio waves, but directly into the minds of everyone in the command center. The voice was ancient, cold, and filled with the confidence of something that had never known defeat. We are the Void Hunters, devourers of worlds, consumers of civilizations. We have come to examine the species that claims to eat predators. Will provide us with samples of your finest warriors so that we may judge their flavor. Before we consume your entire world. Kate blinked and looked around at her staff. Did they just say they want to eat us? That appears to be the gist of it. Admiral, her communications officer, replied. Kate sighed and opened a channel to the Planetary Defense Network. All units, we have visitors who want to eat us. Standard protocol for beings that want to eat us, Admiral, asked Commander Blake from the orbital defense platform, same as always. Blake, check the cookbook database and see if we have any recipes for whatever these things are, while her staff ran searches through humanity's extensive culinary databases. Kate opened communications with the alien vessels, again Void Hunters. This is Admiral Kate. We appreciate your interest in our cuisine, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. We don't provide samples of our people for tasting. However, if you're interested in good food, we might be able to work something out. The psychic laughter that filled the command center was like ice water in their veins. Foolish prey creature, you do not understand. We are Void Hunters. We have consumed the greatest warriors of 1,000 species. Your resistance is meaningless, Commander Blake, Kate called over the comm. What did the database search turn up? Well, Admiral, we don't have specific recipes for Void Hunters, but there are some interesting notes about energy-based life forms. Apparently they're supposed to be quite rich in flavor but need special preparation methods, Kate nodded. Void Hunters, we're going to have to decline your offer to be eaten. However, we'd be happy to discuss recipes that might work for your particular biology. The Void Hunters' response was immediate. Their ships began powering weapons that could crack planets, while their psychic assault intensified. Most species would have been driven to their knees by the mental attack alone. Instead, Kate just looked annoyed. Are you trying to give us headaches? Because that's really not necessary for a friendly conversation. Elder Nethes was confused. The psychic assault that had broken the minds of entire civilizations was being treated like a minor inconvenience. The humans showed no fear, no despair, no recognition that they were facing their own extinction. Impossible, Nethes projected. You should be cowering in terror, begging for mercy. Look, we get it, Kate replied. You're big, you're scary, you eat people. But honestly, you're not the first cosmic horror we've dealt with this week. Could you maybe tone down the mental screaming? Some of us are trying to work here. The Void Hunters had never encountered anything like this. Their prey was supposed to run, hide, or fight desperately against impossible odds. They were not supposed to treat ancient cosmic entities like a mild workplace disruption, Elder. Nethes decided to demonstrate their power more directly. One of their ships began to phase into reality in a way that should have driven any observer insane with its impossible geometry. Neat trick, Kate observed. Blake, are you getting energy readings on that dimensional folding thing they're doing? Yes, Admiral. Very interesting. Looks like they exist partially outside normal space-time. That probably affects the protein structure significantly. Good point. They're probably going to need low temperature cooking to avoid breaking down the interdimensional proteins. The Void Hunters were becoming increasingly frustrated. They had expected terror and found culinary discussion. They had expected desperate resistance and found casual interest in their biology. You will be consumed, Elder Nethes projected with growing anger. We have devoured species that could shatter stars. That's nice, Kate replied. Admiral's log. The Void Hunters appear to be a high-energy species with interdimensional characteristics. Probable cooking methods include slow roasting at low temperatures, or possibly smoking for extended periods. Commander Blake's voice came over the comm with obvious excitement. Admiral, I've been thinking about this. They're partially energy-based. We might be able to use some of the techniques we developed for cooking those plasma elementals we found last month. Excellent point. Blake, do we still have those specialty energy containment grills? 3 of them, Admiral. And I think I could modify them for interdimensional cooking by this point. Elder Nethes was experiencing something completely foreign to its ancient existence: uncertainty. The Void Hunters had never encountered prey that discussed cooking methods while being threatened with extinction. You dare speak of consuming us, Nethes projected, its psychic voice now tinged with something that might have been fear. Well, you started it, Kate pointed out reasonably. You came here talking about eating us. We're just returning the conversation. The other Void Hunters were now projecting their own confusion and growing concern. This was not how their hunts were supposed to go. Prey did not calmly discuss recipes. While facing annihilation besides, Kate continued, according to our database, Energy-based cosmic entities are considered a delicacy in several galactic sectors. Very hard to come by, though, since most species are too scared to hunt them properly scared. Elder Nethys's projection was becoming increasingly shrill. "We are the ultimate predators. We're the ultimate predators," Kate corrected gently. "Blake, start heating up those modified grills. I think our guests might be staying for dinner, the Void Hunters." Ancient beings who had consumed civilizations for millions of years found themselves in the unprecedented position of being treated as the main course rather than the diners. "This is impossible." Nethys projected weakly. "That's what the Shadow Stalkers said," Kate replied, checking her preparations. "And the dimensional horrors, and those things from the research station last week. You'd be surprised how many ultimate predators there are in the galaxy, Elder." Nethys realized with growing horror that humanity had somehow reversed the fundamental relationship between predator and prey. They were no longer the hunters, but the hunted, perhaps. Nethys projected desperately. "We could discuss this peacefully," Kate smiled. "Of course, would you prefer to be grilled or smoked?" 6 months after the Void Hunter incident, Manager Beth straightened her apron and checked the dining room one final time before the grand opening of Apex, its newest location on Harmony Hub. The restaurant chain had grown from a single location on Earth to over 300 establishments across the galaxy, each one specializing in what other species considered their worst nightmares. Menu board near the entrance displayed offerings that would have sent most aliens running for the nearest exit: Shadow Stalker steaks, Dimensional Horror Soup, Void Hunter Energy Bites, and today's special, Devourer Queen Prime Rib. Beth's staff was a mix of humans and a few brave aliens who had gotten used to working with what they called terror cuisine. Her head chef, Marcus, was the same diplomat who had started this whole phenomenon at the Rolani feast months earlier. And he had proven to be surprisingly talented in the kitchen. "Beth, we've got our first customers," called Tim from behind the register. He was pointing toward the entrance where a group of nervous-looking Rolani delegates were huddled together, whispering anxiously among themselves. Ambassador Krill led the group, his compound eyes darting around the restaurant's interior with obvious unease. The walls were decorated with mounted heads of creatures that had once terrorized entire star systems, and soft music played while holographic displays showed preparation techniques for various apex predators. "Welcome to Apex Eats," Beth said, cheerfully approaching the group with menus. "Table for 6. We have some excellent specials today." Krill's antennae twitched nervously. "Manager Beth, we have come to observe this establishment as part of our ongoing diplomatic relations with humanity. However, I must confess, we are somewhat concerned about the nature of your cuisine." "Oh, don't worry," Beth replied. "We have plenty of options for different dietary needs. Are you looking for something mild to start with, or do you want to jump right into the specialty items?" She led them to a large round table near the window, where they could see the restaurant's preparation area through transparent aluminum panels. Chef Marcus was currently working on what appeared to be a massive tentacled creature that was still faintly glowing with bioluminescent patterns. "Is that creature still alive?" whispered one of the Rolani delegates. "Oh no, that's just residual energy discharge," Beth explained. "Psychic predators tend to do that for a few hours after preparation. It's completely harmless and actually adds a nice visual effect to the dining experience." Tim approached the table with his order pad. "Can I start you folks off with some appetizers? The razor maw claws are very popular, or if you're feeling adventurous, we have fresh mind ripper tentacles with our special fear-reducing sauce." Krill looked at the menu with obvious distress. "Perhaps you could recommend something less intimidating for first-time visitors." "Well, the Shadow Stalker sliders are pretty mild," Tim suggested. "They're served on regular buns with standard toppings, so they don't look too scary. The meat has a nice subtle flavor. It's kind of like a cross between venison and darkness." Before the Rolani could respond, a commotion arose from the kitchen area. Through the transparent panels, they could see Marcus struggling with what appeared to be a large, writhing mass of tentacles and teeth. "Excuse me for just a moment," Beth said, walking over to the kitchen communication panel. "Marcus, everything okay back there?" "Yeah. Just having some trouble with the entropy spider prep," Marcus called back. This one's still got some temporal distortion effects going. Every time I try to season it, the spices age into dust. The chronostable seasoning blend, suggested one of the human line cooks. It's designed to work with time-displaced ingredients. Beth returned to the table where the Rolani delegates were staring in fascination and horror at the kitchen activities. Sorry about that. We're still working out some of the technical challenges. With temporal predator preparation, she explained. Now what sounds good to everyone? Ambassador Krill set down his menu with shaking hands. Manager Beth, I must ask, how did humanity develop such casual attitudes toward creatures that have terrorized the galaxy for millennia? Beth considered the question while checking her service schedule. I guess we just don't see them as particularly scary? I mean, they're just animals when you get down to it. Big animals with unusual abilities, but still just animals. But the Void Hunters consumed entire civilizations. Protested another Rolani delegate, right, which means they had really active metabolisms, Beth replied. Oh, that usually translates to very lean, flavorful meat. Plus, the energy-based aspects of their biology create some really interesting cooking. Challenges Tim returned with a tray of sample appetizers. Compliments of the chef. We have a selection of our most popular starters here. The tray contains small portions of creatures that the Rolani recognized from their species. Most terrifying legends, a piece of crystallized Void Hunter energy. Thin slices of Shadow Stalker meat arranged in an elegant pattern. And what appeared to be soup made from something that glowed with an inner light. The glowing one is dimensional horror bisque, Tim explained. It exists in several realities simultaneously. So you get a really complex flavor profile. One of the younger Rolani delegates. Curiosity overcoming fear, tentatively tried a small piece of the Shadow Stalker. His eyes widened in surprise. It tastes like safety, he said in amazement. That's the fear enzyme breakdown, Beth explained. When you properly cook a fear-based predator, the chemicals that generate terror and prey get converted into compounds that actually promote feelings of security and well-being. Across the restaurant, other customers were enjoying their meals with obvious satisfaction. A family of Corvin were sharing a platter of what had once been a pack of their world's most dangerous predators, while a group of Crystal Dominion traders were carefully examining the molecular structure of their entropy spider steaks. This is surreal, Krill muttered. Watching a human child happily eating something that looked like it had crawled out of a cosmic nightmare. The really amazing thing, Beth continued, is how the flavors develop when you understand the creature's biology. Terror predators that hunt through fear actually taste completely different when the fear compounds are neutralized through proper. The cooking chef Marcus emerged from the kitchen carrying a massive platter. Fresh Devour, Queen Prime Rib, aged for maximum tenderness, he announced. This particular specimen was preserved using temporal stasis, so the meat has been aging for about 50 years without any deterioration. The Rolani delegates watched in stunned silence as Marcus carved the ancient nightmare with the same casual expertise he might use for a holiday roast. You know, Krill said slowly, perhaps we have been approaching these creatures incorrectly all these years. How so? Beth asked. We saw them as unstoppable forces of destruction. But you see them as ingredients with interesting properties, Beth nodded. That's the difference between being afraid of something and understanding it. Once you understand how these creatures work biologically, they're not scary anymore. They're just really exotic protein sources with unusual preparation requirements. As the evening progressed, more alien customers arrived, drawn by curiosity and word of mouth. Each group started nervously, but gradually relaxed as they realized that creatures which had haunted their species' nightmares for generations were now just items on a menu by closing time. Beth was reviewing the day's receipts with satisfaction. The grand opening had been a complete success, with customers from 12 different species and not a single complaint about the food manager's log. She dictated to her recording device, Harmony Hub location successfully opened. Customer response positive across all species demographics. Note for corporate. Consider expanding the temporal predator menu section. The entropy spider dishes were very popular despite preparation challenges through the restaurant's windows. She could see alien families walking past, pointing at the menu displays and discussing which items they might try on there. Next visit, what had started as a simple diplomatic feast had somehow transformed the galaxy's relationship with its most feared predators. Creatures that had once ended civilizations were now the foundation of the fastest-growing restaurant chain in known space. Beth turned off the lights and locked up, already planning tomorrow's specials. After all, the universe was full of apex predators, and someone had to cook them properly.